Okay, so what events and has Our Lady of Guadalupe provided for the Hispanic community on the South Side?
When it first opened, the church was officially dedicated by the bishop at that time. I believe his name was William Condon, the bishop at that time. Came down and they blessed the building and the sanctuary and every part of that church, and according to the traditions of the church at that time. And that was obviously a great moment for all the people that were involved. That this was their goal. They accomplished it. So once that was said and done, the cultural impact started building. What I mean by that is they had special traditions that are carried across from Mexico to here, with in particular being named after our mother, the Virgin Mary, that we call Our Lady of Guadalupe. Um, we set aside, or there's a date set aside, I should say, of December 12th. And on that particular day, the community is invited as a special day to honor our Virgin Mother. And we sing special songs for her. It's like a birthday type of celebration.
Celebration.
And we sing special songs, and special prayers are said. And that's something that's open to the public as an invite to come and be a part of that celebration. Uh, for the continued cost of the building itself, of course, it had to be paid off. One of the things that were started that time that we still carry today is what we call the fiesta. And what that fiesta initially started with was there in the back side of the church. That was part of the property of the church at that time, and they would build booths for games and food, and they would have dances out there, and all the activities of a celebration known as the fiesta was took place in that area. Well, as time progressed, that part of the property got sold, and so the next step was in conjunction with the city of Billings. That's when we asked for, and they helped us put together our fiesta in the South Park, and up until today, that's where it's been, going on. So those are the two main things that I can think of right now. And aside from that, they have special celebration, family cultural celebrations, known as quinceañeras, as an example, which is the 15th birthday of a young girl as a coming out, if you will, of, from child to womanhood. And that's a special tradition for the Hispanics, as well as some of the other weddings and funerals. It's a very important place for us to have those other celebrations. That since it's tying us to our historical ancestors, to have it there in that church.
And so, how many do you think that it's the church started out with initially, and how many do we have now?
That's a difficult question to answer, because for whatever reason, back then when I first started, there were probably several hundred people, and I would say, when I say 100 people, I don't include more specifically how many families, because every family was a little bit different in size and so forth. I would almost venture to say there was probably a good 60, 70 families at that time.
There's more than that.
More than that, you
I
think?
think so. I really don't know. We could count the people in that one picture.
Yeah, I suppose.
True. Yeah.
That was a typical.
That was a
Sunday.
typical, amount of people. Yeah. So I guess I'm way off, but it was a large amount. I'll put it that way. Today, there are probably that many people registered in the Guadalupe, but the ones that actually go are two different numbers. And unfortunately, the administration of our church, they count the ones that are there, versus the ones that are on the rolls, as inactive versus active, if you want to put it that way. But you can really see the impact, like if somebody in the Hispanic community has died and they have the funeral, that church is standing room only of the Hispanics. The majority of them are all Hispanics, that come to that service. So they're there, but for whatever reason, they're not actively involved.
Same thing with Easter Mass. There's always
Easter,
standing room.
Christmas, special holidays like that. Yeah, that's when.
That's when all the Hispanic community really
Right.
comes together. All right. Okay, so within the church itself, what kind of groups were formed and what groups that still remain?
From the very beginning, I don't know how organized they were, but there was a group of men that did most of the physical labor on the church. And I know around the early 70s, Ines organized a group called Los Hombres de Guadalupe, and they would meet regularly to pray together, to read scripture, and they also organized to do maintenance work and to run the fiesta and all of those things. And the women had, and they called it in those days the altar society, and that usually means the women who take care of the altar area and do the linens and stuff, but it also meant they were kind of like the mother's role at home as far as housekeeping and cooking and all those things, and they would prepare all the food for the fiestas as well. And they were both involved in those groups from the beginning, some years more than others. Then around 1974, I believe, Ines wanted to start a music group for Mass. And so I was involved with that, and Billy was as well. And we started singing at Mass. And we did that for quite a few years. And then it got to be kind of hard for him to keep doing it regularly. And of course, the priests preferred that they had music there at every Mass. And so it kind of evolved over the next few years. And we had another woman, Lupe Brown, was in charge of the music for a couple of years in the late 70s, but we sang mostly in English. And then I kept encouraging her to do some in Spanish. And then she had to leave that sort of job. And I took over the choir then, and that was around 1980. It was still the same people that had been singing from the beginning, just, I guess you could say, new management. And Bill played the guitar and I sang, and we've been doing that now ever since. More people have joined, some have come and gone, but we're still going, and there's about 15 people in our group now.
And you guys have recorded CDs as well?
Yeah, we recorded some CDs. I thought that might be helpful to parishioners to hear the music, and they could take it with them and learn it, just how you like to sing along with music. And it did really improve the singing of all the people in the Mass. So
just more involvement all around.
Yes, exactly.
Engage everyone in the Mass.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right, so if we could talk about how then the church has, where it's, why it was then joined in economically. Is that why?
Like I was stating earlier about the population of our particular church, it had decreased, to less than a third of what it used to be in terms of total amount of attendance. In the same way, the religious individuals, the priests, the nuns, they're getting older, and less people were involving themselves to be ordained as a priest or a deacon even, or a nun. So with that in mind, with Guadalupe, Our Lady, Guadalupe I should say, Little Flower, and Holy Rosary, it was decided about 10 years ago basically that the three of us, three parishes, would merge, and we were given an opportunity to start working with each other and learning each other's ways of doing certain things, cultures and that type of thing, and meeting the other parishioners to start working together at different things within the three parishes, like as an example, we all would get together for one Thanksgiving Day Mass, sharing resources and that type of thing. And up until a few years ago, we were officially merged and brought under one name, which after a process, it was decided as Mary Queen of Peace. And so that in July of this year, we officially will be under one roof, currently temporarily at the Little Flower Church until our new one is built. And the reason for all of that, like I say, is that we started having less priests available. The ones that were there got to the point where they could no longer maintain their role and be, as strong as needed from them to be available for all the different things that are demanded of a priest, for confessions and, the Mass itself, maintaining all those different Masses. So a lot of the Masses were cut to accommodate a schedule of one priest, because by law of the church, they can only do, I believe it's 3 Masses a day. And of course, with 3 churches and each one having multiple Masses, there were some sacrifices that had to be done. And unfortunately, several people felt, hurt, misled. To some people, they felt misled that our church should have been there forever. It was supposed to be there forever. And it would have if we would have had, all the proper people in place to do what needed to be done. But unfortunately, that wasn't the case. So this is our course right now, is to come together under a new title and in a new building, so that we're all starting fresh. And it's like our ancestors, building a new church for ourselves and for our next generations.
And where is this new location going to be at then?
The new location, the lot has already been bought. It's on South 27th Street between 10th and 11th Avenue South. And it's on the western side of 27th Street. And for all practical purposes, I think we are going to end up having the whole block included as the property of the new church. There's currently in the southwest corner a couple of rental houses that are still there, but I think the thought is, we can negotiate with the owner to include that little corner into the rest of the property, so that we would have the entire block.
And so, do you think that the switch of I guess the new location of the church, do you think it's still in a prime spot to still reach out to the Hispanic community on the south side?
I say yes, because that was one of the things that our bishop encouraged, is the fact that, yes, we're going to have to close all 3 parishes that are currently there and form under one. And he himself said it will be in the south side. There's a lot of need beyond just having a church building for our services. The thought is to expand, our outreach to the local community, being there for those that are feeling disenfranchised or, in some way falling away, those that, are looking to come back into the church. This would be the only church that is in the area known as the South Side. And with that thought in mind, it brings to me anyway the importance of it being right there where it's at, basically in the center and in the heart of the Southside community. And I think it'll grow, beyond what we're expecting even at this point. Because once it's there, and we can expand our.
Okay, so in Montana, is this probably the only Hispanic Spanish-speaking Masses that they have?
Yeah, Our Lady of Guadalupe was formed to be just for the Hispanic community, and we have at different times had priests who could speak Spanish. We haven't for quite a while, but we're getting one in July. There are parishes across the country that were designated as a parish for different ethnic groups, like the Germans, Polish, Irish, Italian. But as far as I know, we're the only one in Montana, which is 2 different dioceses, that is an ethnic parish like this, we don't have geographic boundaries as far as who would belong to the church. It is specifically for all Hispanic people. And I believe we'll have that designation still when we are as merged as our Mary Queen of Peace. Although we will, of course, have other groups merged with us. So, yeah.
And so here in Billings, is this the only Hispanic church that reaches out to the Southside community?
There is another Spanish-speaking church. It's called the Praise Center here on the South Side. I don't know a lot about them. They're non-Catholic. They're Protestant. And they and us are the only ones that I'm aware of in the state, really.
So also within the church, I know that a Mexican cultural dance group was formed by our parents. Could you expand on how that got started?
Well, like I said, when the church is built, a lot of different cultural things came with it, from the way we worship to, like you were just saying, the celebration of dance. Mom and Dad had always felt that dance was a very positive thing, for one thing. And so they got us older kids to start learning some of the traditional steps and learning the music that went with those steps, and kind of explained to us what some of it meant, why they came to existence and that type of thing. And so, of course, we enjoyed it. We loved showing off anyway, so that was a great opportunity as an outlet to do that. And some of us excelled on it quite well. And in my particular case, I just love playing the music to it. But from there, obviously, it carried over to our own kids, and now even our grandkids are involved with these programs. And it's just an expression of our joy and happiness that goes along with our life. That yes, life can be difficult, but dance is what helps us to get through those things. They're happy times, and years down the road, we'll laugh and talk about having those experiences together and sharing that and continuing it on. And that's one of the most difficult things about living this far from Mexico and our roots, is that when we do get a hold of some of this cultural things, whether that be song or dance or prayers or whatever, we appreciate it even further, because this far north of the border, some of that stuff takes a while for it to get here. And when we do get it, we embrace it because we know it's from our culture, and we know it's part of our roots. And now we've got an opportunity to keep it for ourselves as well, and share it with the community and the people in this part of the world too.
And the name Los Guadalupanos came from
as a honoring Our Lady of Guadalupe. That's what Guadalupanos is coming from. And in other words, it's like saying you're from Montana, so you're a Montanan. So that's how that is defined that way. And we do it in honor of our Virgin Mother, because like all things that we believe in our faith and our lives, everything we have comes from God. And that is the core of everything that we have learned. And we hold that to be very, very true. And we realize that without His being there, none of what we can do is possible. And so that's why we keep Him close to us in that way.
Thank you. Thank you as well, Peggy.
You're welcome.